What is up, everyone, and welcome back to another video. So in today's video, I want to give you guys a question. Do you think you can still go pro in Fortnite? Now, I know this is a pretty controversial topic, and a lot of people think that no, you can't go pro in Fortnite, the scene is already too established, and others think anything is possible and you may be able to do it. So in today's video, I want to have that discussion and basically tell you guys what I think about this topic. Before we get into it, if you enjoy this video, then be sure to drop a like on it and consider subscribing as well if you're new to the channel and you want to see more content just like this in the future. And as well as that, if you want to show some extra support, it would really mean a lot to me if you could use code Teckoh in the item shop. It's 100% free for you and it seriously does help me out a bunch. As always, a massive thank you to everyone who uses it. But with that said, and without further ado, let's get into today's video. So the first big topic when it comes to going pro in Fortnite is obviously going to be your mechanical skill. Now, the biggest issue with this is that people have had many years, I think over 5 years of Fortnite being out now. They've had so much time to build up their mechanical skill and the game has progressed so much in that time. With that in mind, it's very hard to catch up because pros have super refined mechanics and basically know exactly what they're doing. To actually reach that point that most pros are at in terms of their mechanical skill, it's probably going to take you at least hundreds of hours of solid dedicated practice, if not even thousands of hours, just to get to that point. Not to mention how much mechanics may improve in the future as well. Obviously, the game's going to be around for a while and there's plenty of time to level up your mechanics, but that's definitely something you want to keep in mind. On a positive note though, it is good that there are tons of ways to practice nowadays. You've got tons of Raider 464 maps, other mechanical maps, and there's so many different options you can use to step up your mechanics way faster than anyone has in the past. I guess a similar concept to mechanical skill is kind of the game sense side of things as well, but the good news about the game sense side is that you can really level that up pretty much at the same pace as most pros. The thing is that the meta is constantly changing and the way the game's going to look in 2 chapters is probably going to be entirely different. It honestly feels kind of crazy to think of like what chapter 5 or 6 might look like in terms of Fortnite. It could look like an entirely different game or it could be pretty similar, but fundamentally I think that once you know the basics, once you know how all the zones work and all that kind of fundamental stuff about the game, you should be able to catch up pretty quickly whenever there's a new meta. So with that in mind, if you're not already a competitive player or close to it, it is going to be very hard to get your mechanical skill to that level, but it certainly is possible, so I wouldn't entirely rule it out. The second topic that's going to make it very hard to still go pro in Fortnite is going to be finding teammates. Now, the issue is if you don't already have a teammate that you're trying to go pro with, you're going to need to get really good solo placements to get good teammates. After all, any competitive player is going to look at earnings, they're going to look at your placements, and they're going to see that you don't have any, and they're just going to give up on you. And the biggest issue that I see with this is not a lot of people like to do solo tournaments, solo cash cups and whatnot, but it's pretty much necessary if you're trying to level up in competitive. Of course, you can find some sort of teammate basically no matter what level you're at, but to find an actual good teammate who's going to place high and potentially get earnings with you, you're going to need those solo tournaments. And with a lack of major solo tournaments, like we do have the solo victory cups, which are cool, but we don't have really any major solo tournaments like an FNCS style or, you know, World Cup or anything like that you can really go and improve yourself in. Another thing to keep in mind is that most high level players, most people who are really good at the game are already caught up with a duo and they won't give someone lower than them a chance. That's simply because why would they? I mean, somebody has less placements, less earnings and whatnot. Basically, the issue is that you're stuck with no teammates until you prove yourself, or if you can find someone around your level who has the same exact drive to improve and wants to go pro. And really, I find that a lot of people can talk the talk. They can say that they want to go pro and they can say that they want to do all these crazy things. But when it really comes down to it, it's hard to find someone who's actually going to put their head down and put in the time and really get good at it. So if you can find that, that's absolutely incredible, but finding teammates is definitely going to be an issue. What I recommend you guys do if you're trying to go pro in Fortnite is that you absolutely put all of your time into solos. Obviously, you can still play duo and trio arena and play those tournaments if you have friends. Hopefully you have friends. It would suck if you don't. But really, you're going to need to nail down those solo placements, and I feel like a lot of players just don't recognize that. So my advice to you guys, if you're trying to go pro, focus on solos and see what you can do there. And if you're really built for competitive, then eventually you're going to get some solo placements and you should be able to find some teammates. Now, the last topic that's really interesting when it comes to whether you can still go pro in Fortnite is the competitive scene. The thing about the competitive scene right now is that there's a lot of people competing for really not too much money. Competition is absolutely fierce. You still have hundreds of thousands of people playing in a lot of these tournaments, like the solo victory cups. They're absolutely stacked. There's so many people doing them. And granted, the prize pools right now are good, but they're not quite as big as before, and there's so many people that they're split between. Nowadays, most pros actually need a second source of income unless they're like absolute tier 1 players like Booga, Clicks, or anybody at that level. That's why you'll see a lot of pros trying to do YouTube and other content creation, and you may even see them just having regular day-to-day jobs aside from Fortnite. It's a very hard scene to break into in terms of actually getting those consistent earnings and making that money. It's definitely possible, but building a following at this point in Fortnite and just getting those placements at this point in Fortnite is pretty difficult. And the last factor with the competitive scene is that the future is questionable. Really, none of us know what Epic might add or change, so a solely competitive career is definitely a concern. If you don't have any other source of income, for example, let's say Epic just decides to have a super low low prize pool next season, or just don't have any prize pool at all for most tournaments, or if you simply just don't qualify for the big tournament, then that's going to put you in a really bad situation if you rely on the game. So with that in mind, if you're gonna try to go pro in Fortnite, something I definitely recommend you do is try to have a second source. For example, you can try content creation. That's what I do. Obviously, I'm not a pro player, but I mean, you get the idea. But yeah, guys, you really never know what's going to happen in the competitive scene, but what we do know is that it's very fierce right now. There's a lot of competition, so you need to be prepared for that. If you can reach the absolute highest level, then you can definitely break into the scene, but it's going to be difficult and it's going to take a lot of time. So with that in mind, guys, that's going to wrap it up for pretty much most of this discussion. Now, personally, to answer the question, can you still go pro in Fortnite? I think yes. The biggest problem with going pro nowadays in Fortnite, specifically in Chapter 4, is that it may or may not be worth it depending on the person. First of all, there's a lot of catching up to do in terms of your mechanics. You have to spend tons of time studying, reviewing, and practicing, even just to catch up to the average competitive player if you're not already there. Plus, it's very hard to find teammates unless you're already established, which automatically takes away 60 or 70% of tournaments. And the scene is already fairly solidified, so it's very hard to kind of break into that top level and become one of the big guys. So with that in mind, I do think you can still go pro in Fortnite, and hopefully this video gave you some good context and kind of just opened your eyes as to what the situation really looks like. My personal advice is, if you're trying to go pro in Fortnite, if you're really trying to reach that level, then absolutely give it a shot. But obviously you don't want to fully rely on it. You want to have other options, and because realistically 90% of the people that try to go pro in Fortnite, if not much more than that, are not going to do it. So with that in mind, guys, definitely have at it, chase your dreams, but be realistic as well. I think you can still go pro in Fortnite, but you need to have a backup plan. Well, with that in mind, guys, I want you guys to let me know down in the comments what you think of this. I know this was a bit of a brief video. It's a bit unusual compared to my usual style, but it's something I wanted to talk about. If you guys enjoyed this video or you found it helpful, then be sure to drop a like on it. And if you want to see more content just like this in the future, then be sure to subscribe. As well as that, it would really mean a lot to me if you could use code Teckoh in the item shop. It's 100% free for you, and it seriously does help me out a bunch. So as always, a big thank you to everyone who uses it. As well as that, guys, definitely let me know down in the comments what you guys want to see next on the channel, as well as just what you thought of this discussion and what your personal opinion is on it. But with that said, thank you all for watching this video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye for now.